Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we're going to discuss the 2020 Netflix original Italian film Out of My League. All in all in English, all in Italian. There's a couple English songs thrown here and there. Filmed in Italy. Main character's name is Marta. She has this rare genetic disease, which she has an overabundance of mucus in her lungs, and it's slowly killing her. There's a couple different lung diseases like that, but this particular one is what she has, and so she lives with her two best friends. One is a lesbian, one is a gay guy. They're all 19, all going to university, roughly. And so they've all grown up together. They're now living together. So now it's a matter of the two best friends are starting to talk about having a kid together, and then a turkey baster is involved throughout the variety of the film, which is a great conversation piece. How did two gay parents, a lesbian mom and a gay dad, have a child? Well, some form of insemination is required, but how do you have that? But they're 19. Are they actually ready to do that? Good conversations with in regards to that. Marta is now obsessing over this guy that they all go to school with, Arturo. He's on the rowing team. He has a horse. He's from a very wealthy family. Whatever. He's extremely handsome, extremely good looking, as he's referred to many times. And so she winds up stalking the hell out of him after a chance encounter at a local bar called Nemo, and which I loved, by the way. And so after learning all about his past and his likes and his dislikes, and then happened to stumble upon him again while she's walking with friends and he's running with his rowing crew, he overhears and swoops back, and then Charity Cases tells her that he's going to take her out on a date to kind of shut her up. And I feel like it was one of those page to screen moments, because I remember years ago Robert Patterson, excuse me, had an encounter like that with a stalker of his, a fan who was just absolutely obsessed, would not leave him alone. And he said, "You know what? We're going out on a date." And he took her out on a date and just shared everything on how depressed he was and how much he hates this and hates that, and she didn't want anything to do with him ever again, and that was the plan. So it reminded me so much of that news article back in the day. This was 12, 15 years ago when he was doing the Twilight films. And that's immediately what I got when this crossed my mind. And I was like, okay, well, he's pulling a Robert Pattinson on this girl, Marta. And so it's the opposite, because he actually starts to fall for her. She starts to fall for him, even though she was stalking him to begin with. They have a gondola ride. She gets all coffee again, winds up in the hospital for quite some time. Then eventually they have the conversation. She is dying unless, she gets this transplant and things, and he's reading up and researching, and he's finding experimental treatments. And then he's like, what other wish can we do, that I'm capable of? And then she smirks, and they have the attic wedding at the end, like they were doing with her and her friends in the beginning of the film. Cute. But it's just so awkward getting to the points, because this is not a good character. Marta's not a good character. She is dying, and she's become selfish about dying. I don't know how else to explain it. She's using Arturo for her own personal gain because she's dying, and she can say, "I'm dying, so I get to do this." But that's not right. I don't know how to word it, because you could say that's not morally correct, but then the flip side is, well, she's dying. Doesn't she get to do what she wants? Yeah, she gets to do things, but she doesn't get to abuse people. That's abuse. You can't mentally abuse someone or physically use someone because you're dying. That's not, how is that fair to the other person? Takes two to tango, right? So I love the best friends characters. I thought their dynamic was incredible. The conversations they have about life and loving each other, and it was a very, what's her name? Francesca? What'd she say? I ovulate every 28 days, at least for another 30 years. So we'll figure this out. And I was like, bro, this is awesome. This is a great heart to heart the two of them are having at this kitchenette table. Wonderful. My favorite character is Arturo, because he shows vulnerability. He cries. He expresses emotion. He's not this cold-hearted rich kid from this wealthy family who is, built and jacked and all jocked because he's on the rowing team of this university. he expresses these things. He says, I'm not happy. I didn't choose to be on the road. I didn't choose to own a horse. I didn't choose to be in this family. It was all chosen for me. What do I want to do? And like getting the conversations with Marta that, well, what can he do to help her after she tells him that she is sick, and how it's not fair to him for her hiding this from him, because what would happen if she was lost and he wouldn't know and he would just feel guilt. So it was a lot of like him explaining, you can't do this to people. And I loved it. I love that character, him crying to his mom in the garden. Like, it was just, I did not expect this jock character to have so much vulnerability, to have so much emotion. And I'm upset because I know he's not in the sequel. There's 3 of these films. And I'm curious how I'm supposed to champion this girl who uses people. I'm curious to see what happens next in regards to the other 2 friends. I'm curious to see how they're gonna write off or write away the marriage that happened at the end, the attic marriage. Does it not actually count? Was it just a fantasy? I'm curious what happens next. I want to say because I like these characters, but I like the 2 best friends. I loved Arturo's character. I don't like Marta. I don't like the main character. She's too selfish. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that. So, let's see what happens next. We got 2 more films. How we got 2 more films out of this first one? Not a clue. But it's an hour and a half long. Bing, bang, boom, cut to the chase, move the story along. I thought it did a great job with those particular conversations we discussed. The soundtrack was flawless. The costuming was gorgeous. The sets, the scenes, the apartments, the houses, the club, the school, beautiful. It had that old world to new world mix to it that parts of Europe have, and it was gorgeous. Visually gorgeous film. Cinematography was gorgeous. Lighting, gorgeous. I'm concerned with what happens next with the characters. I feel so bad for Arturo. I hope he gets a proper explanation why they're no longer together. I did it to myself. I should not have read what happens next, but I did. It's my own fault. So, what did I say? 2020 Netflix original Italian film out of my league. On to the next review. Mucho mahalo.